Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of UGASports Live. My name is Rodney DeBulsey. I will be your host for the next hour. I am joined from the Watch Along Studio headquarters over at Jim Donnan's house. We have Dane Young and Jim Donnan, the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, the star of the show, the main attraction, the number one in your hearts and in your programs. I don't know what number Coach used to wear in high school or college, but we're just going to give him number one because he's a badass, and that's what the number he deserves. So,
what was your high school number, Coach?
High school or college?
Let's start with high school and then go to college.
Well, the funny thing in high school, I wasn't going to play my senior year because I was going to focus on basketball, and then they took my number, so I was 33 my senior year, which I didn't like too much, but it made me understand that I had to work my way back. But I was 14 in college.
All right, so we'll retire 14 for this show. Nobody gets to wear a number 14 jersey for the remainder of UGASports Live's put together. A big shout out to our sponsors, of course, Academia Brewing Company, Your Pie Pizzas, our friends over at Athens Ford, and of course, Dead Soxy. We appreciate all them being sponsors. We have had a lot of requests from people about being sponsors of our show and being sponsors of the Watch Along Show. That's where we do our Watch Along Show for each Georgia football game there in that studio. And if you want to be have a sponsorship, a 4-hour-long commercial about your business, hit me up, and we'll bring on a couple of other sponsors. Of course, shout out to Leon Former and Bud Light Seltzer and Athens Ford for sponsoring the Watch Along Show.
It was real nice of Coach to make a studio at his house just for us.
Yeah, it was very convenient.
Yeah.
We got Elvis in the background there, and of course, we've had a lot of people. We've had some guests sit in on us, so we'll have some guests hopefully in the future. Coach, I want to jump right into it's May 31st, last day of May. Tomorrow's June. To me, June is summer. It means players are arriving, and all the freshmen report. But actually, the freshmen are reporting today, and then we just saw some reporting from our own Anthony Dasher down in Destin, Florida. It is time for the SEC media days. They have not had it's not an SEC meeting, the SEC meetings. So SEC meetings are going on in Destin. Those have been off, remote or canceled for the last few years because of COVID. So they're finally back to having the meetings. In other words, it feels like we're taking a huge step closer to the season getting here. I'm feeling great. I'm excited about it. But tell us a little bit about either the players that are coming in or what goes on in the SEC meetings, the votes that are going down, the presidents are down there. There's a lot going on. And the floor is yours, Coach.
Today is a really signal day for so many high school seniors that are reporting for the first time to college. Basically, they're getting in their dorm assignments, and they got people over there showing them, where all to go and get situated as far as taking buses and things around campus to classes. But just kind of orientation day for the freshmen and any new walk-ons that are going to be on the squad. Then tomorrow they'll take their physicals and go through a complete battery of all kind of tests to ensure their physical capabilities. And then tomorrow afternoon they'll be getting in the saddle, so to speak, probably doing some workouts and things like that. And then tomorrow starts the camp scene for Georgia football. Initially, the first few of them are just kind of a tryout camp where kids come in for couple hours and they work them through their position skills, and then they have, I think, 3 days of those, and then next week they have a little kids camp where not necessarily little kids but younger kids that are more geared into just finding out what Georgia football is all about. And then they'll have some 7-on-7 camps where they'll bring high school teams in to compete and work hard at developing their skills. But it gives a chance to see how they look against other teams and practice in a controlled setting there where they're going. The Georgia coaches are looking at them too. As far as the SEC coaches meetings, from what I understand, I don't know if it's changed, but it used to be the football, basketball, men's and women's basketball, and the administrators for the other sports would all meet down in Destin. And you have basically a day where football's front and center, where you talk to the compliance people about new rules. The supervisor of officials will come in and talk to you about rule changes that are coming up for the next year, and also some things that happened during last year that they want to work on with their different officiating crews to help ensure better officiating, and then gives you a chance for the coaches to ask questions about maybe things that they felt like would help improve things too. And then you meet about an hour with the commissioner talking about what the projections are for scheduling here with the SEC, probably 2023 or 2024, Oklahoma and Texas entering the league. And also some of the TV people come in to talk about their role in helping you and you helping them. Usually some producers from CBS, ESPN, and people like that will meet with you. So really tomorrow, I think, is really when the football coaches really get hot and heavy in there as far as and it'll be hot and heavy with Nick and Jimbo in there. That'll be for sure. I can't wait to see the irony there when those two guys come in the room. That'll be a lot of fun. But we'll talk about a few stories over the years, but usually speaking, it is very straightforward situation. It's all laid out. They have a schedule that you're going to go over and all. But guys like Spurrier and people like that, all they want to do is get it over so they can get out and play golf. So it wasn't a real contentious situation when I was there. It was very just straight out, basically listen to the commissioner and listen to the rules supervisor. And at that time, it's Bobby Gaston, who did a good job working with the coaches. And so I think it's just a good time to air out anything among the coaches together there where you're in the room together. And then maybe as I mentioned in the get-go, go over the new rules that are coming in for not only football, but recruiting, compliance, whatever it might be. So with that said, that's pretty much the way it is. They have a cocktail party where everybody's supposed to go out there and shoot the breeze with everybody else. And it's about as close to being a drive-by as I've ever seen. I mean, you just walk out there and drive by in your walking shoes and it's over with. But just you can imagine the people that are staying there that are hanging out are usually not the ones that you expect the coaches to be there. So it's a nice deal, but something I don't think you want to stay longer than 15 minutes for.
If anyone's curious, in the diagram that I saw with the placards, Kirby Smart in the main meetings is sitting in between Mark Stoops and Billy Napier, which means absolutely nothing unless you want it to, because a lot of people do care about who you sit beside.
Well, they got seating arrangements for them now.
That's what it shows on here. They have placards in front of chairs.
Hey, I
think that might be for when they speak to the media, maybe when they get up. But if they got seating charts, then that's pretty. It's going to be really something when Nick and Jimbo sit beside each other.
Well, they're not beside each other. I'm trying to see where it's saving.
That's why when you put together a wedding and you assign people to different tables, cousin Bernice can't sit next to Claudia because they'll kill each other. So you put them at table 6 and table 17. So you separate them out.
They have 4 SEC officials in between Fisher and Saban.
So,
yeah. I just, that might be an overall meeting, but I know we have one meeting where we're just like just the coaches by themselves. But I got to give you a couple stories here before I forget them, because I've done as usual. My usual preparation for this show has been intense and not too hard to come up with stories like this. But everybody knows how organized Lou Holtz is. I mean, the guy over the years is just very, very independent, and he's his own man, and he's in charge and all, and he likes to be the guy. And the first meeting we had when he was there, every year one of the coaches is in charge of the meeting from a standpoint of what the commissioner gives you to go over. I mean, you're the secretary of the meeting. It goes in alphabetical order. And the year that Lou's first year, they had Woody Woodenhofer from Vanderbilt was in charge. So everybody knows Woody's laid back and everything. And at 9 o'clock, there was about maybe 8 or 9 of us sitting down, and then there's some other people outside. And I mean, it wasn't exactly a 9 o'clock start like it's supposed to be.
Right.
So about 9:07, everybody gets down. And the first thing before Woody can say anything is Lou says, every place I've ever been, when it says a meeting starts at 9 o'clock, that's when we start, 9 o'clock. And everybody said, come on, to yourself, what are you doing, Lou? Here we're in a little easy-ass meeting here. And so nobody said anything. So then we go, and we're going to take a break. So Woody said, hey, we're going to take a break, and everybody be back in at 10:15, and we'll get going again. And you got to remember, Lou's already busted us for not being there at 9 o'clock.
Right.
So about 10:19, Lou's not back. So he walks in there and sits down. All of us are sitting there. And you got to remember the first thing Lou said, every time I've ever been in a meeting, we say we're going to be at 9 o'clock. You're supposed to be there. So the first thing Woody says, every time we talk about being back at 10:15 in a meeting at the SEC, we mean for you to be back, Lou. I mean, that was cold-blooded now. I mean, and then everybody just started laughing so hard, and Lou didn't like it. So then the commissioner comes in and starts assigning the dates that we're going to be on the SEC media days. So, I mean, if he tells you got to be here on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, that's when you go. I mean, Wednesday at 1 o'clock, I mean, it's all set, So he goes over the schedule, and Lou says, I can't be there then. Roy said, what do you mean you can't be there? He said, I can't be there. He said, I got something scheduled that day. So Roy Kramer's pretty strong. Everybody knows Roy. He over the years, Roy was a football coach, athletic director, and he said, okay, Lou, I'm just going to tell you, you can either be there like you're supposed to, or I'm going to fine you. Ooh. He said, that's the way it is, and you need to work it out, and you need to talk to your athletic director. So then the next morning he's supposed to come in there, and Lou's downstairs and he's hanging out, and he gets ready. We got this buffet out there for all the coaches, I mean, some nice little breakfast stuff. And so Lou gets his plate and starts to leave. And he says, Woody says, where are you going, Lou? He said, well, I'm just going to take this food back to my wife upstairs. And Woody says, hey, Woody. He says, hey, Lou, this is SEC. You can charge a room service to your room here. You don't need to be stealing this stuff. He said it. You don't need to be stealing this stuff and taking it upstairs. I mean, all of us were just busted on Lou so bad that first time. And then the last one was a year that Coach Spurrier hardly ever said anything about it. But how he could say stuff like FSU, Free Shoes University, or you can't spell citrus without UT in it, Citrus Bowl. So pretty sharp. But at that time, he'd had this linebacker transfer from Alabama to Florida, and I can't remember his name, but he's a good player. But Coach Dubose at Alabama, they were using these deals on the cars where kids could get these balloon payments, and they would, after they got out of school and get their pro contracts, they'd pay for it. But it really was kind of, a little steely there. It wasn't like it's supposed to be. So we're all getting ready, and Woody says, hey, does anybody got anything else to say? And it might not have been Woody. It might have been before that. It might have been might have been Danny Ford. I don't remember. And Lou, and we're all getting ready to leave, and Spurrier says, hey, we need to talk about automobiles. And everybody's looking around, and he says, I'm talking specifically to you, Coach Dubose. Could you tell me how you're getting those automobiles for players down there? And I'm telling you, it was like, if he could have gone any lower in his chair in that meeting, he would have been down on the floor. Because we're all looking at him, and Spurrier just basically called him out and said, hey, well, it ended up, you saw how bad they got put on probation. He got let go, and then they brought in Mike Shula. But let's talk about automobiles. So
Did your mouth just fall open?
I mean, I thought it took a lot of balls for old Spurrier just to come.
All right. Well, we lost audio there for a second. Let me pick this up. While you guys hold tight, see if Dane can bring it back.
It's still real fast, but it's gonna be a little bit worse. I'm gonna see if I can check a battery situation.
Yeah, I hear you now.
You probably hear me. You're gonna hear Coach a little bit less, right?
Yeah, I hear you, Coach. I do want to tell you some of the stuff that's going on right now at the SEC Media Days. Nick Saban has been up to speak, and apparently he says, according to Anthony Dasher's. Nick Saban says, I have no problem with Jimbo at all. So they're trying to backtrack there. Apparently said, I didn't really say anything. I didn't really say that anybody did anything wrong, okay? And I've said everything I'm going to say about this. So Nick Saban basically saying he thinks the boosters should be precluded from recruiting, which a lot of people have agreed with him there. Although it's kind of tough. Where do you draw that line between a booster and fans or people who are, I mean, if you're trying to get a UGA or Clemson or Alabama player to sell your product, you're probably interested in the team. You're a fan, maybe you're a season ticket holder, so that's going to be interesting. But we have seen a little bit of the back and forth there between
we should be back in business. Thumbs up if you've got
Can you hear me okay, Roddy?
Yes, sir. We're good.
I really think, I mean, certainly that was big news when it happened, but I really feel like what Lane Kiffin has said is more, really out there from the standpoint, hey, realistically, we've got pro football now in college. That's what he's saying. So, hey, we're paying the players. And he says, basically that's what it is. Kids aren't looking for a school based on the education or the coach or the stadium. They're looking on what the money situation is. Now, for him to say that straight out, I mean, it might be that's true, but for a coach to say that, I think that's a heck of a lot more out there than Coach Saban's situation there. We'll have to see what the commissioner says about that because, it's and then you got the Pac-12 is looking at some of those legislators out in California are proposing that they have their NIL that any kid that's on a team in the Pac-12 in California would get 50% of the revenue that the school gets, which includes TV money too. Well, if that would ever happen, then, the minor sports would not have a chance because they would take all the money and all you have club sports except for football and basketball. So I don't think that'll be a national deal. But if they did that in the Pac-12, there'd be a lot of kids going to UCLA and, those schools because you get 50% of the revenue. I mean, come on.
Well, I think there's going to end up being a national conversation at some point with the way these things are headed. Someone's going to bring up, why are these connected to education? And what I'm going to tell you is exactly what you just said, Coach. One is that if football were to step away, then all the other sports lose the revenue, especially in the South and some other places as well. I know in North Carolina, basketball is kind of the driver in a lot of those cases, but that's pretty rare. But the other piece of it is you coached, these players way better than I ever have. But I know so many players, and not just football, but every sport, we'll say football in particular, that they're not playing football after they leave college. And they had access to classes and networks and education that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And if that ever gets devalued to the point that people actually don't see a need for it, that's just going to be really sad because I think a lot of people are going to miss out.
Right. And, there's a lot to be said for a kid that doesn't actually graduate from school. But you look at what the athletic program has helped him develop as a man, the discipline he learns from being on a team, from being accountable, day-to-day stuff that they have to do, that just teaching a kid how to have manners and do all the things that, we work hard at that. So there's a lot more to education to me than book learning. I mean, you've got to, as dealing with the students you do, part of going to college is learning how to meet and deal with people. It's not just the book learning. So we hope that they'll go on and get the degree and all. But, from day one back to when I first started coaching, kids were worried about the ticket money. How much money could they get for their tickets? That was how they would get more money. What kind of summer job would they get? I mean, so it's already proliferated now to the NIL, where their name, image, and likeness are getting money for that. So it's definitely an issue out there, and we'll just see how it works out. But the best thing for our fans is that we're in a place that knows what to do, will adjust to what has to be done. If you just look at the MO for Kirby Smart, facilities were down when he got here. Look what we got now. I mean, in 6 years, regardless of what the NIL is going to be, pro or con, we'll be right there with the best of them. I promise you that. So Kirby's not going to let any slack be around here. That's for sure.
No, and he's got a plan to. Well, Kirby Smart can't implement NIL, but he knows the people who can, and he's going to be sure that Georgia has the best people lined up to do it. We had a story recently on the Classic City Collective. We showed where fans and people who are interested in that can actually contribute to the collective, and how if you are a corporation, you want to get a hold of a player to advertise, be it a sponsor, do some of that NIL stuff. You go through the Classic City Collective. We'll have more from Matt Hitz and his group as they advance their program over there. So we'll have more on that. And then, Coach, I think you nailed it talking about Kiffin saying, look, this is a professional league. It's money motivated. It's that way in pretty much all businesses. I mean, I've been approached to go different places based on money. And I'm like, you have loyalty, but at the same time, you're like, well, how much money are we talking about here? It's the same in every business. Money makes the world go round, and to think it's not going to happen in college sports, it's crazy. But I think why everyone got so excited about the whole Saban Jimbo thing was the accusation of cheating. They bought their players. Like, it's just like when you said Spurrier came out and said, hey, let's talk about those cars. It's like, wow, he actually said it. So that got everybody ginned up and talking about it. But I think Kirby Smart had an interesting comment today when he was asked about this. He said, look, these are the same guys that used to sit in meetings together. They know each other. I know, if coaches are going to have spats, you wish it didn't happen in public. But if any of you had ever been on the headsets during a game, you would basically see that is minuscule. So I want to know, Coach, what is it like on the headsets during those games? I mean, you're all pulling for the same team, but at the same time, you got a bunch of type A personalities, a bunch of alpha dogs thinking things should happen a certain way. And I just can't imagine what it would be like to be on those headsets.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to add to this is you got to figure that Florida, through the years, right up there, our number one competitor, and the new coach there, Billy Napier, has made it perfectly clear that he feels like NIL is the way to go. I mean, he's our competitor, and he's saying we're really into it. We're working at it, and it's going to be a big part of our program moving forward. So, some people might be griping about it and saying, hey, what are we going to do? This guy's saying, hey, we're going to use it at the University of Florida. And everybody knows the capabilities of those Florida alums, pro or con, whether you're fair or not on recruiting, they can get it. But as far as the headphones, just for the fans there, you've got basically two sets there. You've got the defensive on one set and the offense on the other. And the head coach has a switch there where he can flip from one side to the other. So when the defense is out on the field, he's on the defensive phone, and vice versa. And then you have a special teams group that has their own set too. And I think the rule among the SEC is you can have up to 21 people on a headset, maybe less than that, but I'm not sure. But and some of these guys are told it's okay for you to be on the headset, but if you say anything, you're going to get executed. Basically, you cannot say a word because you can imagine if you're talking. And then you've got some breakdowns on the offensive set where you can go a two-way where only the line coach is talking to his line guy and the receiver coach is talking to the back and forth and to the quarterbacks, maybe coach. But you also have a telephone that you have up there, two telephones, one that goes down to the defensive side and one to the offense, where a coach can speak specifically to a player on the phone rather than the headset. And I've seen some things happen over the years. I know when we played in the national championship for the against Penn State, is back when fax machines were just becoming relevant, 1985. And Coach Switz was very impulsive and everything. And so we're walking out there on the field on the day before the game, and we just happened to be walking by Penn State's sideline, and Switzer said, "What's that right there?" And I said, "Looks like a fax machine." "Hey, they got a fax machine on the sideline for a game? Where's ours? Where do we have?" I said, "Coach, we don't need a fax machine." He said, "Hey, we're going to get one." And so we go over there, and we got this guy scrambling, and we got to get our guy to set it up and all. It's all based on the fact you see a play happen upstairs, and you write it up and you fax it down the sideline, and the players can see it and all. I mean, that's pretty revolutionary back then. But so we had ours for the game, and we used it for one play. I don't even remember what it was, but we used it. But Switzer, boy, we were ready, man. We had that fax machine. That was going to make a difference during the game. And we had another guy. I'm not going to tell you what school it was for, but this one coach was not a great coach. He's a good recruiter, and he was a very good man and everything, but he liked to talk a little bit too much. And so he kept asking the coach, he said, "How come you don't let me wear a headset during the game?" He said, "How come you don't let me? People, some of my buddies are asking me about it." And he said, "Well, I just don't want you talking in there." He said, "Well, I really would like to have one." And so the coach said, "Okay, I'm going to let you have one, but there's not going to be any wires on it." So this guy walked along, and he was trying to convince him back when you didn't have headless phones, the wireless phones, not headless, but, he tried to say, "Hey, I've just got a wireless deal where I can talk." He thought that was cool. So
I love it.
He's the same guy that had 3 different women come to a game one time, and that he was kind of a ladies' man, and he gave them tickets, but he forgot that they were all together.
Oh no!
So that didn't work out very good.
Oh no! You wish you'd had a headset that day.
Yeah.
Talk about situation.
But I'm telling you, during the course of the game, getting back, there's a lot of things go on where, after the game, you say you're sorry and, "Hey, I shouldn't have said that," and all that. But
your parents actually were married?
There's been some guys fired during the game that got rehired at halftime and all. But
I love that. I love it. Hey, speaking of halftime, we're going to need to take a quick break here to mention a couple of our sponsors, and I want to start off with our friends at Dead Soxy. Now, because they have a neat program set up where we've told you about their great socks, but let's say you run a business, and I just put up the red and black pages at UGASports.com. It's a new message board where you can go over there and list your Georgia-owned business, i.e., are you a Georgia fan? Are you a Georgia alum? Do you run a business? Do you work at a business? Do you guys pull for the Bulldogs? And come list your business on the red and black pages. And here's another great idea to kind of get your name out there, to get some of these Dead Soxy custom socks. So if you're trying to rally your team or build an empire or, any of that sort of thing, put your logo where it matters. You don't put it on some half-rate swag. Don't put it on some, pin. I've got ESPN pins here. They're kind of pointless, Put on some good stuff. So premium custom socks that will make you look good. Everybody wears socks. Everybody wears their favorite socks. They wear them all every day. So why not put something out there that's high quality that will become their favorite socks and have your logo on it, across the toe, across the calf, wherever. We saw a bunch of those We Want Arch socks. I thought those were pretty hilarious. You get the message out there. Plus, it's a lasting impression. It's not something that, "Oh, hey, thanks for this drawstring bag that I'm going to throw away, or thanks for this hat I'll never wear." They'll wear the damn socks all the time. So be sure to get them a pair of that. And you don't need to worry about it if you don't have the design skills. Just reach out to Dead Soxy. They will design it for you. Just give them a logo, tell them what your idea is. They'll put it together. And, these are fantastic. So it's not like they use different crappy socks. These are the same high-quality socks that you use, that you buy from Dead Soxy. So I think the minimum order is 120. So it's not like you have to buy 5,000 pairs of socks. You can do a small order, see how well they work, see how much good feedback you get. Do it again. So just go to deadsoxy.com custom to check out what they do with the custom socks. You'll absolutely love it. It's deadsoxy/custom. You'll really enjoy that. And of course, today is Tuesday. We're kind of early in the show. You still have time to order lunch. Reach out to our friends at YourPie. Use the YourPie app. Get double points today, which will get you free pizzas, free breadsticks, free gelato, stuff like that. And I always say, there's a location near you. I typed in Atlanta. There are 10 locations in Atlanta. We got Smyrna, Tucker, Hateville, Marietta, Fayetteville, Roswell, Snellville, Milton, Peachtree City. 10 different locations in there. Grant Park. Hit up any of those locations in Atlanta. Have it ready for your way home. If it's a little too late right now, I'll get something on the way home. Go ahead and order it on the YourPie app. Tell them what time you're going to swing by, or tell them when you want it delivered, and they'll take care of it.
Shout out to the Watkinsville location. That's my preferred one for where I live.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I got one more story here that I tell about every 5 years about the headsets, because it's a classic. We were playing Houston in the Astrodome back in 1971 or 2, and I was at Florida State, and the one defensive coach was just paranoid about headset keeping everything up, and it was we had to get down at halftime, in the Astrodome, and it wasn't it was not real easy with all those different levels and everything to get up there. And so about 45 seconds to go, I said, "Hey, Jack, I'm going on downstairs. Give me time to get down there and talk to the team and everything." And he said, "Well, I'm just going to stay up here till make sure that they don't do anything, even though they're backed up and everything." So I get down there, and it took me a little while to get, about 5 minutes, and our team's already in there, and so we got 10 minutes to go, and I'm working with the offense and everything, and I noticed Jack's not there, and 5 minutes to go, the referees are coming in and give you the 5-minute warning, and our defensive coordinator is still not down there. And finally, he comes running in there with about 3 minutes to go, and he talks to the defense real quick, and we walking back up there, and I said, "Where in the heck were you?" And he said, "I was trying to find it." He said, "I said all these red mezzanine level and blue level and all that." He said, "I couldn't find it." He said, "Finally, went up to this place, to the concession stand, and to ask somebody, and this guy behind me said, 'No wonder they're getting their ass beat. Their coaches are in here at halftime getting hot dogs.'" That was a classic. And so we ended up not winning the game, but Jack was always accused of getting a hot dog up there at the mezzanine level instead of being with the defense. So,
hey, well, there's witnesses, so he's got it.
That's pretty bold in a football. I've heard of basketball coaches actually going to a concession stand.
No, he was going for directions.
I know, but still.
We need to do a show one time on the worst concessions in stadiums. That'll be a fun show. We'll let the fans weigh in there, and that's always a good one. Dave, I didn't see any new.
Go ahead. I'll tell that next week. Go ahead.
Oh, if you got a story, Coach, let it ride.
Well, we were in Florida State, and Bill Parcells was a defensive coach, and came up with this idea that back then you could take Polaroid pictures of the team right before the snap, so you could see what the offensive line was breaking into their stuff and otherwise. But the problem was getting them down to the sideline. You know what I mean? It was a long way. So we built this system with this guy wire there where you after each series, you're going to put them on this thing and slide them down there, So the first series, it worked really well. They took the pictures, and Gene Henderson was up there, and this guy took them, and Gene looked at them and marked them down in distance, and then sent them down there to Parcells on the sideline. Well, after the second series, they started down there and they fell off into the stands, and these guys over there looking at them, hey, 2nd 3, 4th and 6. It was so funny. I mean, you can laugh at it now, but And that was the same year that we played Florida. Both of us 4-0, and Parcells and I were going to after the game, we were going to leave on Sunday morning, go out, and we had an open day and go out to junior colleges in Kansas and recruit. And he had this FSU bag, garnet and gold with FSU on the back. And we got out there to that Tallahassee airport, a little small airport, and our fans were mad. Hey, we had a chance. I mean, we were good, but we fumbled 2 punts and ended up losing to the Gators. And this guy's out there. He acts like he recognizes us, and he said, "Man, that was terrible," and all this. And Parson says, "What are you doing talking to me about it?" And he said, "Well, aren't you a coach?" He said, "No." He said, "Well, what's that on your bag?" And he said, "What's that FSU?" He said, "My name's Fred Underwood." So we got out of that one.
Clever.
That's tough. I'd like Nick Saban was talking about something that's going on here. I want to mention Kiffin had mentioned this earlier, but Nick Saban said that going down the road, you're going to see players dip into the portal to trigger an NIL bidding war. And I'm going down the road. Hell, we've already seen that. So
they do that in recruiting too.
It's going to happen.
Absolutely. But hey, we mentioned that months ago before we even started seeing it. We said, look, 2 things to watch out for. Transfer portal being used as I'm going to leave if I don't get paid more, or, hey, do you have more money for me? I just had a great season, and it's like redoing your contract each year, or at least once, because you can transfer without losing eligibility immediately. And then
here's a good
superstar players getting tons and tons of NIL, and the coach saying, "Hey, look, you got enough NIL money. You don't need to be on scholarship. We could save that scholarship and bring you in another player that you help us use." So if you get a big enough deal, all of a sudden, it's going to be a very interesting week down in Destin as they deal with some of the, as was mentioned, good intentions. A lot of this stuff came with. It was well-intentioned, but the practical aspects of the NIL and the transfer portal are proving to be quite thorny. So,
and coaches aren't going to have anything to say about it either. I mean, they can talk about it, but the president's going to decide. But I think it'd be good if we had a timeline on the transfer portal that you couldn't transfer within the league after a certain time, and you can transfer to another league. But the thing that's going to happen with the good schools like Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, I think, is we're going to continue to flourish. And what's going to happen is the difference is in the NFL, if you're a Super Bowl team, you don't draft until you're the 32nd pick. But in college, you got to pick a litter. If you need a player, a guy's going to come to a place like Georgia if he got a chance to compete for a national championship. So every year after you've maybe lost a couple of players, you can really look really hard in the transfer portal and get a player to help you win. Very similar to what they got at Alabama last year with that Williamson kid. It's going to be like that. The best teams are going to stay up there. The transfer portal helps us just as much as the NIL does.
I keep saying that there are so many parallels between what SEC football is, and not just SEC, but the top of college football and Premier League soccer right now, because Manchester United in Premier League soccer just had the worst season since 1992 when the league began, and they finished 6th in the league. Now, that's just because of how it's structured. Like you're saying, there's no salary cap on it. They have all the money there. So a bad season there is that for them. It's not being down 15-20 or whatever. That's going to be the case for the Alabamas, Ohio State, Georgia, if Clemson can stay up in there. That
Clemson's got to start taking some transfers. So, I mean, they got to realize that, they just – he's against that, but he's going to have to change. He's going to have to take some transfers.
The 2 things that I wanted to mention that I'm interested to see from Destin, because I actually don't think a whole lot's going to come from it, at least not publicly. The scheduling I'm definitely interested in, because originally a year ago we heard the pod system was being thrown around. Now it sounds like it's either 3 permanent opponents or 1 permanent opponent with the divisions going away. So I'm curious to see if something comes from that.
Yeah, I would think maybe we might get to. It just depends if it's a bombshell like the SEC media days where all of a sudden we heard that Oklahoma and Texas were coming to the league last July. Now there might be this bombshell, okay, 2023, they're going to be in the league and we're going to schedule it. but I don't know that they're going to show the schedule for 2024 yet. If they're not going to be 20, I just think that there's too many things that got to happen between now and then to do it right away. But they could. But it'll be interesting. But everybody's talking about, hey, the SEC can go on and play their own national championship and do all that. That's not going to happen. We're not going to get into that type of deal right now, I don't believe.
But to that end, I am curious to see what tone Greg Sankey speaks with, because he's in a spot here where the commissioner of the SEC wields more power than it ever has because of the strength of the league, because of the media contracts that the league has. So I'm curious, is he going to be is that role, SEC commissioner, going to be the college football godfather, or is it going to be we work with everybody? And that I'm curious to see what happens there.
Well, what you're going to see from Greg Sankey is going to be a guy walking across a board where he might go a little bit this way, a little bit this way. He's never going to go all the way on that part, I don't think. He doesn't have, as strong as we are, those other schools, we need them to work with us too. I mean, we can't be taking, and most, you got
they need to fix coach's audio.
All right, hold on.
If I got run out of battery here,
you might have.
Dave's audio is fine. Yours is weak.
I'm giving you my mic.
Yeah, you do that. I want to mention our friends over at Academia Brewing Company while you give him that. When you get a chance and you were in Athens in the coming weeks for summer, if you want to watch any of the Braves games or you're just looking for a great place to go out to eat, Academia Brewing Company has a fantastic restaurant. It's not just a brewing company. It's not just a brewery. It's actually a great restaurant. But if you were looking for some great beer, they have a new Spazon Saison. It's brewed in collaboration with the Athens Humane Society. It's a tart summer melon Saison. It's a perfect summer brew. Also, the art for the cans features pets from their own academia staff. So if you want to do something good for the Humane Society and have a great beer, you can go out and try the Academia Brewing Company Spazon Saison. Spazon is a pun. I hate puns. We know this. A pun is the worst form of humor, but this is a good cause. So we will allow the Spazon, i.e. spaying your pets, Saison, to be advertised on the show.
You're wrong about puns. That's okay.
Yeah. And then there's also another beer out there you need to try. It's called the Imperial O Negative, and it features a heavy hand of raspberry, blackberry, blueberry, lactose, and Madagascar vanilla beans. Has a little bit of bite, 7.1 alcohol by volume. It's got a little kick to it. So if you get a chance, try the Academia Imperial O Negative and the Spazon Saison. And of course, they have trivia nights, comedy shows, live music, beer and biscuit brunch on the weekends, the outdoor patio, car shows. So there's always something going on at Academia Brewing Company. Hit them up when you get a chance. And while you're on that side of town, if you go down about less than a mile, maybe a half mile, you can swing by Athens Ford. They have over 200 vehicles on the lot. So if you were like me and you had to buy a vehicle for your kid who's going off into the great big world, or if you're just need to update your vehicle, you need a new vehicle, you need a used vehicle, which are almost impossible to find, swing by our friends at Athens Ford. They have over 200 of them on the lot. That is not a typo. When you see 250, 300 cars on the lot, that is legit. I've been out there. I've seen them, just rows upon rows of actual used cars. Incredibly good deals considering where the market is right now. You need to go out and check out our friends at Athens Ford. Is a fantastic. They get 5-star recommendations all the time. You're going to have a great time out there when it comes to buying a new vehicle, or if you're just trying to keep yours running. Go back, check out their parts department, check out their service department, get maintenance done, get your car fixed. They will be able to take care of it for you. The updates that they send you about where your car is, it's not like you drop it off and you just wonder. They do great updates, and it's a fantastic place to get your car serviced. So check them out when you get a chance.
And since we're in our watch along studio, let's give a quick shout out to Bud Light Seltzer and Leon Farmer and his team that sponsor the UGASports watch along show. We didn't really plan to necessarily do the show from here today, but I was over here watching some tennis with Coach. French Open's happening right now, and we said let's just do it downstairs.
Good. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
That joke.
Yeah. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show, so let's get to
a lot of questions. Let's get through those.
Yeah, we'll go pretty quick with this. I love this from Brian K. Whitehead. What did y'all think about Nate McBride, the former linebacker at Georgia, winning the Coca-Cola 600 as the Jack Man with the number 11 team?
Hey, that's impressive. Nate's a very strong guy, and they need people like that working in there. It's amazing the teamwork that goes into those pit stops. I was able to go to a couple NASCAR races and be down there with them, and they're real. They film each one of them and look at what they can do for the next one, and very organized. And Nate jumps right in there. He's got to be proud of getting the win.
Chuck Ward noted that the order that we mentioned of the seating at the SEC meetings in Destin is alphabetical by team. So Kirby Smart was Georgia in between Florida and Kentucky.
Only way that we needed for somebody out there to decipher is the great Chuck Ward coming through for us as usual. He's a master at figuring out stuff that just is so routine that we can't even figure it out.
Yeah, I did want to mention Nate McBride. Also, the McBride family helped get Stetson Bennett in one of those Blue Angels rockets, one of the jets, when the Blue Angels performed at the Vidalia Air Show. It was the McBrides that reached out to Stetson Bennett and got him hooked up. We had an exclusive with Stetson Bennett talking about his time in that cockpit. He said it was the most amazing thing he's ever done. I'm like, didn't you win a national title? But he says everyone's talking about the Maverick movie. He says all the stuff you see in Top Gun, that's what they do in real life, and he didn't throw up. He was very proud of that. He said he had a little wobbly when he stepped back on the ground, but I imagine.
I'm telling you now, that's a different scenario in one of those cockpits. Now, I haven't been actually in one of those ones like Stetson was in, but my friend Nelson Bowers likes to collect things, and he had this MiG from Czechoslovakia, this plane that he had for like a couple years, and I went up in it, and I was in the back seat there, and the guy said, just remember this button right here. If I tell you to eject, that's what it is. As soon as he told me that, I said, is there any way we can cancel this right now?
Yep.
But it was, I said, can you imagine us flying over these airspace and they're seeing a Czechoslovakian MiG? Is somebody going to try to shoot us down or anything? But no, we made it. It was fun. But I would recommend going to see that Top Gun. I would say it's pretty good. So what do we got next?
Well, quickly on Vidalia, Georgia. So I used to go. I'm from East Dublin, so only about 40 minutes away. Used to go to the dentist there, Hugh Jordan, and we go there one time, and he recommends. He said, "While you're here, make sure you go down to Bill's Donuts after." And I'm thinking, the dentist telling me to go to the donut shop. This feels like a little con they have happening here. They're both making money off each other.
That's good. I mean, you get the sweet tooth and then get in there and get the cavity.
Yeah.
But also shout out to Paul Claxton from down there in Vidalia area. Played golf at UGA and just got like 6th or 7th in the PGA Senior last weekend.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive for Paul. I
can top both of y'all. I got a buddy down there by the name of Al Bland who sends us a case of Vidalia onions every year.
Good. Very good. So what we got here?
All right, from the Dog Ven at UGA Sports. Hey, Coach, who will be Georgia's backup center if the need arises? And then also, how is Chad Lindbergh progressing? We don't hear much about him. That's from EB1.
I feel like Lindbergh's making some progress. He just been a victim of good personnel ahead of him, and but I feel like Erickson was a starting center, got hurt in preseason camp last year. You really don't realize how big that kid is till you see him in person now. Compared to some of the larger guys, he's not, but he's very, very well put together, and he's a very good technician. And he's been playing guard, but I would think that'd probably be the move we'd make. He'd be the backup if something happened to Van Pran.
Yeah, I think it's Van Pran, probably Erickson behind that, and then we know Blaski's gotten some reps there. You mentioned Warren McClendon could potentially be emergency if something happened on the road.
Right.
Another question from UGAsports.com. This is actually a bit of a riddle for you, Coach.
A riddle?
Yeah, Utley 1992 says, what can you add to a barrel full of water to make it weigh less?
To a barrel full of water.
Yeah, what can you add to a barrel full of water to make it weigh less?
Stetson Bennett.
I would have said air, and then he came back later and said that the answer is holes. You add holes to a bucket of water, and then it weighs less.
Right.
So well done.
So can you hear somebody text me? They can't hear me. Can the people hear me out there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think we fixed it when I handed you.
All right.
All right, last one from the Dogman from Scuffletown Dog, and also came on YouTube and made sure that we saw this. So thanks, John, for sending that along. This is from Poppy and Mimi's Pecans. I'm assuming this is South Georgia, so I'm saying pecans and not pecans. He wanted to know, Coach, he said, did I hear you correctly say in another show that Stetson Bennett has the best football IQ of anyone you know?
I don't know if it's anyone I know, but I'm talking about his. But he has definitely the IQ of a brilliant tactician to play quarterback. He knows the ins and outs of every bit of our offense, and he's among the better guys I've talked to football wise over the years. I don't go in those meetings with them and know the nomenclature or the calls that they make and all, but I know that our coaches are really impressed with his football IQ, and that would be something that really sticks out for him. As far as how it compares with guys over the past, I don't know, but they talk about some of these coaches that can remember every play that they called and all that and all these things, and realistically most coaches can to a certain extent, not down to the nth one, but I think anybody could ask me about a call on any game I ever called, and I would be close on it. I don't know. It's just because they stick out in your mind. That's your job. You know it inside and out, and you know all the different ways you call plays. I mean, back when I called plays in college, it was a lot different than when I started coaching, and then go to different places and just different verbiage and all. What people used to call the route tree 1 through 9, and some people call it a letter tree. So a 9 route in a one group might be a T route and another for takeoff, or 4 route is a curl route, or you might call it a H route for hook. So I mean, it's just all what you call it.
What would you call a flea flicker? And I'm sure that's like 4 different places that you could have called it different things. But just give me an example of what that call is.
Split right 32 yo-yo. We call it yo-yo because it's what it was. You got it and you yo-yoed it back.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask you about Dane had a post on the dog vent that there's new turf in Sanford Stadium now. And Dane, we lost your mic, by the way. So, Coach, give me your
here's the deal. Here's the deal on our turf and everything like that. We've got tremendous people that work with our athletic department or within our athletic department, and we got some good turf that we can get reasonably fast put in and replace it and all. And part of the deal is we have the money to do it, and Coach Smart is very, very big on having the best turf out there possible for not only safety reasons but also aesthetically it looks great. So we're getting ready to have a ton of people come in for the next couple weeks here. As far as I mentioned, camps, college kids that are going to be rising seniors looking for where to go to school. And you look at the stadium grass, I mean, it's impressive. So I think most of the years right now about this time that we get that replaced, and we also get the one in one of the practice fields. We got the new one already up there. Yeah. But that's just Kirby being on top of everything. He doesn't miss too much. He likes for everything to look like it's game day.
Well, hey, this weekend, and there's a reason we moved our Monday recruiting show to Thursday. The guys that do the Rumors versus Fiction show, Rumors versus Fact show, moved their Monday show to Thursday to preview the upcoming recruiting weekend at Georgia. It's going to be a wild one. They're going to have a ton of guys, big names, and all through June. It's going to be lots of big visits, lots of official visits. So, but that first weekend, it's a Lulu. It's coming on. So be sure to tune into that show Thursday.
Hey, this is the weekend that Arch Manning comes, right?
That would be a big name. Speaking of,
yeah, I understand that Kirby's moving out of his house and Arch's family's moving in.
Well, that's I was kind of underselling it there because we had a question from CCUGA. He says, Coach, how would you sell Arch Manning on Georgia over Texas?
Well, the first thing I would do is I don't ever talk about another school. I think most coaches, that's just your forte. You talk about your strengths and you don't get too involved unless he asks you a particular question about that school. You might say, hey, they really suck. But no, you don't say that. But from my standpoint, if Arch was sitting here and I was trying to put the clothes on him, I'd say, one of the things that you're always looking for is stability in a program. Arch, you're Arch over there, buddy, and you want to look at where you're going to be now and where you're going to be 4 years from now, and who's your boss and what kind of stability do you have? Do you want to base it on the fact that I'm getting ready to sign a new 10-year contract worth about $11 million a year, or you want to go to a place where things aren't really up in and near as established, and you're going to take a real risk? Now, you don't need to take a risk here. We got an offensive coordinator who's getting ready to sign a new 3-year contract that's going to be here. He's going to be your boss and work with you. We got some tremendous facilities for you to develop as a young man. The town itself, you've already been around here 3 or 4 times, and hey, son, this is the deal for you, and here's a check for $1 million. So I was just a little bit of it there.
No, that's a good one. That's a good pitch. I think that will work, and we'll see if we can get him that pitch this weekend.
One of the other things you want to do is always get them talking and ask them what exactly is going to make the difference for you, and make them talk a little bit. And
that's a great point, Coach. I remember speaking to a recruiting guy at Georgia under Mark Richt years and years ago, and I said, "What do you guys look for?" He said, "The lever. We're looking for the lever. What is it that makes this kid pick you, or what's he going to base his pick on, or who in his group is going to be the one really making the pick? Is it his mom, is it dad, pastor, trainer, street agent, playing time? What is the number one thing? What's the lever?" And I'm like, he says, once you figure that, you know whether or not you're going to get a kid. I'm like, oh, okay.
A quarterback with the last name Manning is about to really test the strength of this NIL world, because you're not going to find many people coming into college football with that level of notoriety without having played a college down yet.
Yeah. But here's the thing: I'm told that they're not really looking into that as much.
He doesn't need the money.
Yeah, one of the other things that really is always good for me in closing out a kid or a young man was, again, your Arch. One of the hardest things, Arch, is not necessarily telling me yes, but you telling these other schools no. And you got to find some way to do that and not worry about it. Because if you're going to spend your time being down in the dumps about telling somebody no instead of being fired up about telling me yes, then I can help you with that. You don't have to justify this decision. Just understand that you should celebrate coming here and not worry about having to tell these other people no. You've been working on it all this time, and it's hard to do that, but it shouldn't be a situation that you feel bad about. Just go and tell them no, tell me yes, and let's get it rolling.
You volunteer to reach out to those other coaches for him?
No, I mean, we got people who can get it to them. Say,
I'll tell them, don't you worry about it. I'll let them know.
Yeah, just like, hey, Sark, I heard that hey, Sark, I heard that I want to tell you straight out, I heard that Arch Manning's not coming to Texas.
I wanted you to know. I don't know. I can't tell you my source on that, but yeah. A couple other questions to wrap up the show. We got one from Run the Damn Ball. He says, will they be selling beer in Sanford Stadium this year? We found out this past week they will not.
Said no, yeah. What else?
Dallas Dog says
we'll be selling hard liquor though.
and the tailgate stand is still undefeated.
Behind gate 9, they got some moonshine going too.
Dallas Duck says, Coach, what is the biggest public fight you've had with a coach? And have you had any behind the scenes spats with coaches?
Public fight?
Public fight, yeah. Did you ever have a Jimbo /
not that I know of.
media
not that I know of. And then behind the scenes, I mean, if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Okay. Well, I always appreciate Dallas Dog.
Most coaches respect each other. That's all you can hope for. You can't really like them to the standpoint of, interacting with them daily. You got such a different type of situation. You got friends in other conferences and all, but it's hard to call up other coaches and talk to them about stuff in your own league.
Riley has a two-part question, Coach. He says, who was the biggest loss off of last year's team and which incoming freshman, I'm assuming in this group that's reporting today, are you most excited about? That's a tough one.
I would say three-part there on today: Humphrey, Singletary, and Marvin Jones. All three of them five-star players going to be here. And as far as the biggest loss, it's just hard to.
I mean, if you trust NFL evaluators, it's Trayvon Walker based on overall talent. If you trust Georgia production, it's hard to look past Nakobe Dean.
Yeah. So what do you say as a general manager?
I'd probably say Nakobe Dean based off college production and how well he led that defense. But what Trayvon Walker can be in Georgia's system, he wasn't going to be what the NFL thinks he can be.
Yeah, you can't get too caught up in that as much as what's happening now. But we certainly had some major losses for sure. I say losing Dan Lanning was big, just from the standpoint of organization and guy calling the shots. Now you're going to have very similar personnel doing that, but you're going to have somebody that has never done it before, and Coach Schumann, who I know has done it a lot as far as helping Dan Lanning, but I feel very confident he'll be good at it. And he's got Muschamp and Coach Smart helping him too.
Well, and if Georgia's not good at punting this year, we're going to say it's Jake Camarda. That was the biggest loss.
Hey, we're not going to punt much. That's a good answer, but I don't see it.
No, your answer's better.
I don't think we're going to punt much.
No,
we will kick some field goals, though. I guarantee you we'll kick those field goals.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good question. It's a tough one, though. Biggest loss when you have 5 first-rounders gone and then get 3 5-stars walking in the door today. Who's that's tough. Well, the thing is, it's not tough to say shout out to our sponsors. We appreciate them very much. Athens Ford, of course, Europie, Academic Brewing Company, and Dead Soxy. We also appreciate everyone that sent in a question. Be sure to do that again next Tuesday. We'll be wrapping up a huge recruiting weekend in Georgia. We'll have more on any of the updates from the kids that have popped in. Hopefully we'll maybe even have some camp updates for you next week. And, of course, we will get back to your questions. So tune in next Tuesday at noon, back on this same YouTube channel, the same Facebook page. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we really appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Take care, folks.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Say